And before we get started, we want to make sure that we do our land acknowledgement. So, we acknowledge that there are 46 treaties and other agreements that cover the territory now called Ontario, where the Organic Council of Ontario's membership resides. We are thankful to be able to work and live in these territories, and we are grateful to the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people who have cared for these territories since time immemorial and who continue to contribute to the strength of Ontario and to all communities across the province. If you are in a specific area that you would like to share your land acknowledgement for the people that you would like to thank there, please feel free to do that in the chat now. And yeah, we'll go ahead to the next slide there. So a little bit about the Organic Council of Ontario. So I'm Erica Shelley. I'm the Executive Director, just celebrating a year actually as Executive Director at the Organic Council last month. And we are a nonprofit grassroots group that supports all organic voices here in Ontario. And we now make sure that we say that we cover the entire value chain from the people that are growing the food all the way to the people that are eating the food because they are part of our organic value chain. And then our mission here really is to strengthen and grow Ontario's organic sector by advocating for supportive policies, promoting organic integrity, and building public trust in the organic label. And yeah, obviously, we're really thankful to our federal partners that do this all the way across Canada. And that group is a newly formed Canadian Organic Alliance, which includes the Canadian Organic Trade Alliance, COTA, the Canadian Organic Growers, and the Ontario Organic Federation of Canada. And so we're really happy that they have joined us today as a group to present the Organic Action Plan. So, Sammy, do we have another slide here that I want to make sure I'm not, I think we might have our end slides there. Yeah, so those are our end slides. So we're going to introduce our speakers today, and they have support people here as well. They'll be able to answer your questions. So the first person that I will be introducing is Maylene. Wait, give a wave there, Maylene. So we've got your title as Government Relations and Regulatory Affairs Manager at the Canada Organic Trade Association. I always do Canada and Canadian, and I like mix those up. Sorry. So she coordinates discussions between the organic sector and government regarding organic priorities, regulations, and policies that will impact the sector and the Organic Action Plan. She also represents COTA on the AFC Agile Regulations Table, Seeds Regulatory Modernization, and the iFoam Seeds platform. Before joining COTA, Maylene was the Director of Technical Services at the Animal Nutrition Association of Canada and has also worked with various companies managing technical, regulatory, and certification-related projects. Maylene holds a master's degree in food science and has a strong background in food manufacturing and product development for both human and animal nutrition. So she's one of our speakers today. And our second speaker is Katie Fetz, and she is the Director of Policy and Research from the Canadian Organic Growers. She's passionate about restoring landscapes and ecosystems and building food secure, resilient communities through soil regeneration. Previously, she was the program manager at Landcore, a nonprofit organization advancing soil health in the United States through federal policy, soil health risk modeling research, and education. She's also the co-founder of Rainmaker Enterprise, a refugee-led organization installing solar-powered water systems for health, food security, and climate adaptation in South Sudan. She serves on the boards of Rainmaker and the Canada-Africa Partnership Network, where she previously worked as a network coordinator and co-launched the Africa Climate Action Initiative, supporting civil society organizations in promoting agroecology as a climate solution. Katie holds an MA in Conflict, Security, and Development from King's College London and a BA in Peace, Conflict, and Justice Studies from the University of Toronto. And she also coordinates the Bikes for Climate Hub, distributing repaired bicycles under Transform TO's Neighborhood Climate Action Grant program in North Toronto. So thank you both for joining us today, and we're looking forward to learning more about the Canadian about the I've got all my Canadian everything's right now, the Organic Action Plan. And I just want to say to everyone that is joining us today, if you have any questions as this is going on, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will also have a Q&A at the end that you'll be able to ask questions. But we'll let you guys go ahead and get through your presentation, and then we'll direct towards those questions or comments that we have from the people joining us today. So take it away.
Okay. Thank you so much, Erica, and thank you everybody for your interest and for the opportunity to come and speak with you today and share more about our Organic Action Plan, our collective shared Organic Action Plan. So I will share my screen, and then I think Maylene will start us off.
Great. Thank you, Katie.
Go ahead.
Great. Great. So welcome everybody. And as Katie has mentioned, this is really supposed to be a collective organic action plan. This has been something that has been in the making for over 3 years. So definitely since I started with COTA, and this is something that we just launched October 29th. So hopefully you've heard a little bit about it. We've had some consultations about it, but really it's not completely new. What it is the product of what we have been what we've been doing as an industry for many, many years. What have been our learnings? What have been our requests from all parts of the supply chain and the sector, and basically packaging it all into one. And very, very happy to present that to you today. So next slide, please. So as Erica had mentioned, this project or this initiative was led by the Canadian Organic Alliance, so COTA, COG, and Organic Federation of Canada, but not without the work and the support of many of our partners and stakeholders. So here we have the partners indicated here who really represent all the regional organic organizations within Canada. So the idea with this action plan is that it's not just something that's a federal, it's also shared with our partners across Canada, the federal, provincial, and territorial. And this is not only because it's important that we're able to have buy-in and be able to relate what's in the plan to what's happening in our regions, but also because whenever we're dealing with policy, advocacy, funding, there is that very important partnership between the federal and the provincial territorial as well, whenever we're negotiating these things and talking about it. Do we have, Karen, have you put your camera on really quick? Don't know if that's happened yet. But anyway, yes, just we've got Karen here as well. And as we had said before, regrets from Nicole Boudreau, Executive Director of the Organic Federation of Canada, as well as Tia Lofsgaard, Executive Director of COTA. Next slide, please. So with the Organic Action Plan, one of the key things that we really want to convey is that organic, it's a regulated, third-party, verified, and globally recognized system, and it is an established tool for Canadian governments to advance national goals for economic growth, trade, diversification, food security, public health, biodiversity, and climate. So basically, there's a lot in organic. There's a lot of things that we can deliver on and provide solutions to many of the challenges that we have for the economy, for social and environmental benefits. So I think a lot of us in the organic sector, we know this. So part of the goals of the Organic Action Plan is to be able to convey this and to communicate this to governments, to other stakeholders, and be able to get more recognition of organic for all the things that we're delivering. So next slide, please. So that was the communication that we really want to convey. But what does it mean for all of us in the industry or in the sector itself? What does Organic Action Plan is not just a policy document, but what else can we see and what can the Organic Action Plan and coming together and creating this plan actually achieve for us as a sector? So first of all, it provides a common framework or a roadmap or a strategy, however you want to call it, or a guide. It's basically allowing policy alignment. It can help with program design, and it actually allows coordination between public and private actions to grow organic farming and markets in Canada. If you actually have a chance to read the Organic Action Plan, you'll see that many of the recommendations, there's not only a government recommendation aspect to it, there's actually an organic sector um, uh, initiatives that we really want to build on. So this idea is that Organic Action Plan is looking at seeing what we can do to get government engaged, but what else can we do as a sector? Because there's certain things that we as a sector can already work on internally as a sector, as a supply chain to be able to grow organic. It enables coordination to develop organic supply chains and markets. So in the past, some of the things that we did was, whenever we would advocate for organics, we would be asking for specific, um, funding, specific supports into organic. And in some ways, we came back to government in kind of a siloed approach, I would say. What this Organic Action Plan does is it brings all of that together and it actually really shows the organization. It shows that we're ready to lead. We have a plan in place. And as a result, that we have a bigger vision and that there's more to it than just piecemeal. So I think what we hope to achieve with Organic Action Plan, and when you read it, you're going to see there's a lot of recommendations. There's over 90 different recommendations. It's not meant to all be achieved tomorrow, probably not even all achieved in the next 5 years. The idea is that these are all of the actions that we've cobbled together, and we've taken learnings from other jurisdictions. We've taken learnings from what we've seen is successful in different provinces as well as different countries, and put these together and basically say, if we can work on these things, we could actually have our vision for organic actually be achieved. It also positions organic as a tool to grow and diversify Canada's production base, expand domestic and export markets, and enhance the sector's contribution to the national economy. So this is where we're talking about, it's got a sector aspect to it, but it's also got a policy aspect to it. It shows that the sector is organized, that we're ready to lead, that we're working on this together. And a key thing is that many other countries where they've been able to unlock the growth and capture the benefits of organic have been successful because they have implemented an Organic Action Plan. And I'll just pass that on next to Katie.
Thank you, Maylene. That's a great setup for why are we doing this right now. So I think the growth and emergence of organic has been amazing because it's been, COG has been around since the mid-70s, and we've really seen organic become both federally defined and regulated for over 15 years now, so since 2009, but then also really growth being driven by consumer interest and also farmer interest. So it's grown into such a place where it's a really serious tool. And it's a tool that aligns with policy goals in the areas of economics, environment, climate, lots of national and international also challenges and policy commitments that we have. And so I think we're at the point right now where we have this system. It's based on a strong regulatory system, and we are now at the point where we need to also be investing into it. So which is a public sector, public issue, but it's also a public-private issue. So as Maylene said, we have this shared framework now that we are putting forward to try to organize everybody around and make that go. So it's in a moment where demand keeps growing. So this is national in Canada, but it's also global. So Canadians are looking for more organic food, and this is steady growth year over year on a national level. And actually in 2022, Canada was the world's fastest growing organic market of any country. So it's strong demand and key global market growth as well. So this is in the US, Europe, the Indo-Pacific region, all these areas where we hear Canada's trying to diversify more into, and that is also presenting an option for organic or an opportunity for organic. And but at the same time, we need to be better positioned to be able to meet this opportunity. So Canadian producers and processors want to supply Canadian demand for sure. So if we're looking for buy Canadian and domestic made products, and people are also looking for organic products, we want them to be able to find those two things in one. and find Canadian organic. But also we have processors and businesses along the supply chain that want to source Canadian products and are struggling to find them in some cases. So we need that support to be able to, as they say in the policy area, to scale up. So whether it's we need to scale or whether we need to replicate and see many more of these kinds of farms and systems across the landscape, that will help us better meet the opportunity. It's important because we see our trade competitors and our peer nations investing in this. So it's, you know, it's recognition that organic doesn't solve all problems, but there is broad recognition that it does address lots of different issues. So the EU, we'll see a bit more about this on following slides, but the EU has integrated organic as a core pillar of climate, economic, rural development, clean water policies. So we use organic as a tool to meet those needs. The US is also looking at it partly as a rural development strategy, as a small, medium-sized enterprise investment opportunity, and even put some supports in place with pandemic recovery funds. So this is build back better, build back more organic and more resilient. So we now see, you know, from a policy perspective, if our competitors are investing, it now creates a competitiveness challenge for us in Canada. So those market opportunities should be met by Canadian businesses, and with support they can be. And we also find through some of the research we've done that investment has clear returns, both in terms of farm profits, rural economics, and then also reduced climate impacts and soil health and biodiversity, and as well as trade diversification. And a conversation I think we've been having a little bit more is about de-risking supply chains. So this is partly from internalizing supply chains, so reducing reliance on global input supply chains, for example, is definitely of interest in the area of reducing risk to supply chains with all this geopolitical dynamism going on right now. So this is just a little bit more detail about that opportunity. So we see significant market growth over the last few years. So 2024, the Canadian organic market reached $9.75 billion, and that was 8% growth since the year before that. And it's also 50% growth since a few years before. So it looks like this is a trend for sure. And it's paralleled, as you can see in the visuals, by strong global growth too. We're positioned to meet that partly through the rigorous Canadian organic standard that we have, and that many of you probably participate in keeping up to date, but also with 9 organic trade equivalency arrangements that covers 35 countries. So since one of those is with the European Union, and this covers the vast majority of the global market. So this is kind of the picture that we're seeing on the national level. Of course, depending where we are in the country, and I think most of you are probably in Ontario, but maybe there's some there's more people from other areas. I think this is also like the way this plays out locally and regionally can be quite different. So in some areas, the feedback we've received is, oh, well, we need more focus on market development before we can grow production more. And in others, it's the total opposite. It's, we can't keep up. We need more investment in production. So I think trying to put a national picture together on that, I think our conclusion is just we need both. And that's why the plan focuses on all aspects of it, and is trying to leave flexibility for local priorities to be implemented. But this is the national picture, basically, is that strong consumer demand. The majority of Canadians are looking for organic food, and 35% purchase it often or always. 60% are willing to pay more for it. But at the same time, we see production across the country has been a bit flat over that same period. So there's been just 3% growth in organic producers between 2019 and 2023, and actually a little decline in acreage. There are a couple of exceptions to this, which tend to be in areas where there are strong provincial policies. So for example, in Quebec. But we've looked also in the process of putting this action plan together at, as Maylene said, what other jurisdictions are doing. And we find Canada is kind of alone in its approach nationally, actually, in terms of not having an organic policy and tailored organic specific programs for farming and market development. So just a couple of examples are the Organic Transition Initiative I mentioned, launched in 2022, which includes investments both for farm transition, some supports in the crop insurance program, but also market development program to help producers and businesses access new markets and build new markets too. The EU, that incorporation of organic is under the Farm to Fork strategy. So there's a goal across the whole EU right now that 25% of all farmland will be certified organic by 2030. And it's a core pillar of getting at all of these broader policy needs and strategies. So to meet that, organic action plans are required in all EU member nations. So what we've done with developing an organic action plan for Canada is partly adapted and inspired by this approach that's been used in the EU, but is also now being used all over the world, where it's really about the sector and governments sitting down and identifying shared priorities.
All right, I'm just watching a webinar. I'll call you back.
Great. And directing investments. And so we've really done that, but in Canada so far, it's a sector strategy, and it's we try to build commitment also from the public side of it, and we hope that eventually this will result in a full organic shared policy framework. But in working up to that, we take it step by step and do what we can, and then also put together the public programs that are out there that are supporting it and bring them into this shared framework. So just the last thing I'll say is that policy approaches are associated with more money. So the US is spending 8 times more per acre per year than Canada on organic food and farming programs, and the EU is spending on average 200 times more, according to our analysis. So that's on average, and there's quite a bit of variability between different countries. But if that sounds like a lot, it's because they are using it to deliver on public health outcomes, biodiversity commitments. So it's they call it sometimes a Swiss Army knife public policy tool. So it's one investment that's doing multiple things. So it's efficient in that sense. So all this means that there's an opportunity for Canada to catch up, and that would have lots of benefits wherever you are in the country. That organic, in terms of our vision for this, organic would be a major component of the Canadian food and agriculture system, would be an option for farmers, a viable option for farmers, producers, processors, everyone working in the agri-food value chain, and that governments would recognize and invest in the benefits of that, that producers would achieve fair livelihoods and returns, and also this would contribute to rural revitalization. Also that organic farming would provide a model for climate and environmental innovation and research, that it would be widely understood by Canadians, including as the verified sustainable production system that goes behind it. We also would like to see accessibility and affordability of products be considered within the plan. And that's something we've been hearing, of course, a lot from policymakers about the importance of that, and that the processing sector would also be vibrant. So it's a public-private partnership and a coordinated strategy. And it has 3 pillars of the Organic Action Plan stool, so to speak. So number 1 is to grow production and innovation. Number 2 is to grow markets and demand. And number 3 is to underpin all of that with a strong policy, regulatory, and data infrastructure. So just to go into a bit more detail, across these 3 pillars, there's 16 action areas. And then, as Maylene said, within that, things that the sector has committed to working on, and government recommendations. So these will be shared to you in the slides, and then you can see, a bit more detail even in the plan itself. But the production side is really about expanding education, extension, and knowledge transfer. We would like to see more availability of organic extension support available across the country. I think the support is a bit patchy across the country, and we understand that you can't implement what you don't know. So this is really important for transition, but it's also really important for just continued success within organics. Increased investment in organic research is something that we feel will have a big impact both within the organic sector, but also has value across the whole agricultural sector in terms of continuing to develop practices that are of interest in terms of weed management. In some cases, we have people coming from herbicide resistance that are interested in, okay, what organic practices can be, useful in terms of responding to some of those emerging challenges. But research and extension go together along with de-risking organic transition and production. So this area is about both technical and financial supports to de-risk production and including to de-risk the transition process. So we are recommending targeted cost share support or incentives or investment in whatever mechanism it comes through to de-risk the transition part. At the same time, improved access to organic seed security and other inputs. This has been a priority for the sector for a long time, I know. And then also to focus on growing the next generation of organic farmers and to capture some of the interest from new and young farmers in ecological agriculture in the organic sector, and trying to help with the succession challenge, the broader succession challenge that faces our sector as a whole. So I'll pass it back to you, Maylene, to take us through the rest and finish it off.
Thanks. So the second pillar of the Organic Action Plan is related to markets. So what we find with any actually market is you have to have the supply, but you also have the demand to really balance it and to be able to ensure that you have a sector that is thriving and that is able to be able to withstand really the long-term situation. So with this second pillar, really the goal is to create a stable and more predictable market conditions and building processing and distribution infrastructure, which we know is very important. How do you get that the crops and the production to the final consumer and stimulate demand through consumer education, public procurement, and retail and supply chain partnerships. So one of them is to establish a funding mechanism for market development activities. So this is what we've seen is actually happening in many other countries. In the US, for example, they actually have funding to help promote organic at the retail environment. So this is interesting. There's also other programs in Europe and in other places as well, where they actually work on helping to educate the consumer. Many consumers don't know the full value of benefits that organic delivers, and this is one of the things that helps. Increasing processing capacity, regional food systems, and supply chain collaboration. This is really important. So one of the things that we're actually seeing as we look at, some of the regulatory discussions around interprovincial trade is that idea around processing capacity as well, right? So we have to maintain our organic integrity throughout the supply chain, but often what's restricting us is the ability to be able to get to the next level or the next step in the processing to be able to transform that raw material into something that can then be delivered to different consumers. Raising consumer awareness, as I talked about before, and engaging retail actors to accelerate organic sales. So the retail environment, that is often the last step that the consumers see. So it's really important that retail partners understand organic, the value, the benefit, and they can actually help with that market as well, development. And of course, one of the things that government and the public sector can do most in order to secure and ensure a stable market is to be able to look at procurement. So we've seen, for example, in Denmark and other countries where when there is that drive to have increased public procurement of organic products, that market is actually more stable as well. And I believe in Denmark, they have over 90% of public sector kitchens that have actually indicated that they will be procuring organic products. And that really helps to drive down the cost, but also the availability and accessibility of organic. And then finally, supporting organic export promotions through collaboration. So this again, to build the export markets as well. So what can we do to work with our Trade Commissioner services to make sure that the wonderful and highly valued organic products that we could produce in Canada actually are able to be seen and available through the export market. Next slide, please. And the third pillar that we have is more of an enabling framework. It's a cross-cutting pillar. So these are the things that are probably more in the policy realm, but would have huge impacts actually on, production markets and the day to day. So the idea around this is to strengthen your policy, regulatory, and data infrastructure to make sure that organic is enabled to be able to thrive. And so these things are including what Katie had talked about the policy framework for organic food and farming. I think I heard Paul Holmbeck from Denmark say that Canada was unique among all major agricultural nations not to have a policy framework for organic food and farming. So that's what we're hoping to develop. And once you have a mandate, once you have a strategy, then you can start to unlock the policies and the programs that will be able to help drive production in markets. Launching an organic data strategy. This is one thing that we've heard from in general across the supply chain, across the different regions, how there is a lack of organic data that's publicly available, even for some basic production statistics that we have. We hear that the conventional sector has a lot more access to the nuances around production, import, export, trade that we just don't have our hands on the organic sector. So being able to get this information will not only help us be able to plan, better invest, to make business decisions, but also helps us to justify the increased investment in organic. As we all know, the Canadian Organic Standards, we have a robust system going in place, and it is very critical that these are updated and that they continue to be credible. And through the process that we have, that happens every 5 years, many of our, actually, I think all of our organic equivalency arrangements are dependent on these standards and the review and the continued review and maintenance of these standards. So when we talk about this being the foundation, this is one of the most important things. Developing organic capacity in sector and government. So this is one of those things that we see in terms of organic requires a lot of extension services, a lot of knowledge building and sharing. And how do we make sure that we can have that capacity, the human resource capacity in our sector to be able to share that, but also within government, for things like maintaining organic integrity, inspections, all of that kind of stuff. And finally, the organic regulatory framework, modernizing it to make sure that we safeguard organic integrity. So what else is it that's happening related to the regs right now? It's in the Safe Food for Canadians regulations, but there's things that we could do to ensure that we are staying up to date with our competitors who are more and more looking at more rigorous organic integrity requirements. Next slide, please. And finally, so with that being all the pillars of the plan, what are the next steps? So I guess 2 weeks ago, we officially launched this plan, and electronic and physical copies have been sent to all the MPs, senators, and senior federal staff. So we want to make sure that everyone knows about this organic action plan. They know that we have a strategy and that we're working on the same page, and broad sharing with stakeholders. So with sessions like today to help you understand it, to help answer any questions. And the other thing about this is we've published it now, but it is an evergreen document. The idea is that we would annually review it. So we hope that the product that we've created together is comprehensive, but annually to have a review and look at what our key priorities are. What are the things that are going to have the most impact in terms of unlocking the organic opportunity? So the other the other two things that we're looking at is using the Organic Action Plan for advocacy. So this is a core framing for organic advocacy at the federal level from our organizations, and a possibility to be able to use it at for different um, at the different regional levels or at different parts of the supply chain. We've been talking about this since 2023, at least in meetings that we've had in the fall of this year with the publication of the Organic Task Force report. I think you'll be hearing more about that at another webinar. There's been a lot of reference to the Organic Action Plan as well. And in COTA's recent Parliament Day, we used the Organic Action Plan as a framing for some of the key priorities and asks that we have. So the idea is that we would have continued advocacy at all levels of government across the country as well. So this is just a framing we can use for that. And of course, there's that implementation aspect of it. So what can we do as a sector? How can we organize ourselves? And what are the things that we can do to drive some of the things, breaking down some of the barriers and moving organic forward. So having regional and organic discussions similar to what OCO is doing here, and that I believe there will be more discussions about. And what we're hearing is that in other parts of the country, other provinces and organic organizations are having similar smaller group discussions to see what are their priorities within their region, how does that fit within the Organic Action Plan, and how do we drive that forward. And one of the things that we've heard is when you have, especially when you're looking at investment and you're having those same priorities come out at the provincial level or the regional level, and they're hearing them at the federal level, that's when you kind of get that key to say, hey, this is something we can work on. So that's really important, that partnership that we have. And the hope is that, next year that we'll be able to have more coordination and more discussions across the value chain to be able to talk about this. Next slide, please. So what does that mean? So we've talked about more than probably 90 individual recommendations, which each could take a few days just to talk about to really understand work plans around that. These are some of the ones that we've looked at, our key short-term policy priorities that we have. We've discussed this with the different provinces as well. These are what we've identified at the federal level and that seem consistent. So implementing an organic data strategy with an interdepartmental approach with Agriculture, Agri-Food Canada, StatsCan, and CFIA to provide improved public data. So the situation with organic data right now is that CFIA has the mandate to collect the data. AFC and others could use the data. StatsCan has the ability to be able to aggregate the data and help to publish it. So right now, these are all being collected in different ways. So what we would like to ask for is for there to be some sort of a strategy where all these pieces can come together so that we can get the data that we need to be able to make better investments into our sector. Establish an organic market development fund. This is related to what do we need to be able to expand the markets and build extra processing capacity within our sector. Provide complete and permanent funding for the Canadian Organic Standards Review. We've talked about this being foundational and how every few years we have to come back and we have to try to fundraise to get this done. But the reality is the Canadian Organic Standards are owned by the government, and it's something that trade agreements and arrangements are based on. So it's so important that this is just funded. Creating production supports, extension, knowledge transfer, and de-risking transition, as Katie had spoken about, in order to be able to help our producers and our farmers be able to increase their production. And of course, implementing the National Organic Action Plan for Canada and eventually having an national organic policy framework that would be led by Agriculture, Agri-Food Canada. And so we would have that mandate that would help to unlock the further investment. And finally, all of this really goes into input into the next agricultural policy framework, which many of you know as the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Policy, or the SCAP. So discussions are going to be happening with that very soon, probably in the next year. And so we want to make sure that all of these things that we have get built into that and many of the priorities that we have. Next slide, please. So I'll just leave that here for Katie in terms of how you can participate.
Okay, thank you, Maylene. And I think we're coming to the end here, but this is really like this is as Maylene said, an advocacy tool and a shared plan. So I think those are the various avenues that you have for engaging in it. So OCO is really active in setting up follow-up discussions and figuring out what does the priority for Ontario organic look like and feeding into this broader action plan. So I think engaging with OCO and keeping updated there is a great way to participate as these discussions move forward and as there's work on different priority areas, whether that's in market development or if you're interested in public procurement projects, we can help to direct you that way. Share your story. So share your farm or business or even consumer story. It really helps to show the impacts of organic. And I think this is, yeah, what we find even in talking to policymakers is that stories stick, and it really helps to capture and make all of the technical sides of this real. And then, of course, engaging with your MPs is always helpful, or your elected representatives at all levels. This is something that we've seen municipalities take up in a big way. So like Maylene was saying, in Denmark, Copenhagen has a 90% organic public procurement policy. So 90% of all the food that they're serving in kitchens, hospitals, everywhere is organic, and it's sourced. Much of it tries to source it locally. So there's a commitment that can come from all levels. And definitely with this being partly aimed at the federal government, taking more of a leadership role, engaging with your members of parliament is really helpful and really makes a difference because if they're doing their job well, they'll be definitely focused on their constituents. And, we have organic businesses all across the province, all across the country, and we also have consumers in every constituency for sure. So we'll have specific moments in time where we're making a call out or call to action that you can talk to your MP about something specific, but definitely if you want, you can also just share, hey, I'm in your riding and this is the organic action plan. And we're very happy to provide templates or more information on how you can do that. So definitely reach out to OCO, COG, COTA, any one of us if that's up your alley. And here's all our contacts so you can do that. And once we send the slides out, the organic action plan is also linked in there. I see this is in closing, so I see that there's some questions coming up about, how can this be used for First Nations? Or what's the interest, or if there's interest in organic production as a food security mechanism, as a climate resilience mechanism. I think it may connect into the next comment about certified organic and whether we are whether this plan has space for certified and non-certified, and where and when that might make sense. And I think we definitely see all the dynamics of that playing out in Ontario. Yeah, I think that gets us into wrapping this part up and moving into the questions and discussion. So maybe we'll hand it back to you, Erica, so that you can help to moderate us through that bit.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we linked the action plan in the chat as well. I know if you're watching it on your screen, you can't just link it there, but we can maybe copy and paste and link it towards the bottom of all these questions too, if people want to take a look and spend some time with it. I think one of the very important things that was brought up is about how, the thing we don't get that's unusual about Canada is that we didn't even have this, right? And it was present in most places. So I think the fact that we now have something to reference when we're having conversations as we're going into the next SCAP and looking for funding, and even at the provincial level, this gives us a really great framework to work around when we're dealing with our provincial organizations as well. So I just really want to say a huge thank you to COA for putting this together, getting us on track, and we're hoping that we can continue to share this information as much as possible. One of the things that came up as you guys were talking is I realized we're just putting together our program for our 45th Guelph Organic Conference this year, and we need to have a session with the action plan included. So let's definitely chat about that a little bit more because we've had a huge turnout here today. People obviously interested, and I think that's really, really important. The other piece I want to add in here as well, in terms of those advocacy pieces, MPs listen to the people that are in their ridings. And if you are in a riding of an MP or an MPP or counselors, whomever, as all the people that would fall into your jurisdiction of where you live, share this with them, right? Sometimes they've never seen it. It'll be the first time they see it, and most of them actually, but it's coming from someone in their constituency who cares, and that's what they actually really care about. So if you're not sure who your MPs are, who your MPPs are, please reach out to us or any of the organizations, and we can help direct you to them and how you can advocate, because we can push things, but really those people listen to local people and the things they care about, and you are the local people to those people. So I know that's a lot of words of saying people. It matters. It really matters. Your words matter. So we're going to move into Q&A. There has definitely been some coming in on the chat here. And so I'm going to actually kind of move a little bit backwards here. I'm going to ask, first of all, there was Arlette asked, is there an initiative to request conventional farmers to report on their soil amendments such as requested from a certified organic growers? So that doesn't really fall into the pillar itself, but I think what they're asking is there a comparison to be made? And I actually think COG, you guys are probably the best informed to answer that question.
Okay, the quick answer to that is sadly no. And I guess one of the things about being certified organic is that our farmers are required to prove that they are not using harmful and synthetic inputs. So it doesn't seem quite fair, I suppose, but it is the reality. And currently there is no clear initiative to push that. We represent about 2% of the entire farming community across the country. And so as a result, it makes it very difficult, I suppose, to put forward an initiative such as that. That's not to say this isn't something that could be included in the plan. I think probably Maylene and Katie referred to the fact that this is an evergreen plan that will change as sector priorities change, and that this is the first, our first plan, and that as issues arise, those will be included in the plan and attempts to address concerns such as equity between non-organic and organic farms is better addressed.
All right. Okay. Thanks so much. And yeah, I agree. It's having to prove your, innocence as opposed to guilt in those things. I think it's going to be kind of hard to get conventional farmers to go along with that. And if there's no obvious way for them to do that. But in the EU, it is very different standards that they're dealing with. All right. So Barika Kapusin, Robert Frankovic here. I'm going to try to parse this down here a little bit. All right, so they're referring to the number 36 on the pillar is to introduce tax credits for certified organic land and for landowners who offer long-term leases to organic producers. And so they're saying these incentives should be available to all organic farmers. Um, they're actually asking more specifically about certified organics versus all organics. So I think the question is this pillar, is this organic action plan only for those that fall under certified organic, or will it also cover people who have not gone through the certification process?
So I think we can answer that in a few ways. Definitely the goal with this whole action plan is to advance organic food and farming as a management approach, which means the use of organic practices, farming based on organic principles, and whether that's certified or not certified, we want to encourage all of it for sure. And there is quite a bit in this plan. So the answer is yes. And there is quite a bit in this plan that will apply in terms of extension support on practice adoption, research on organic practices, all of that kind of stuff. But I think at the same time as that, it's also understanding that the organic market opportunity in the which requires the certification in many cases, we should also be able to access that and enable producers to access those opportunities, which means also making the certification system more accessible to different scales of production, which this plan includes both through recommending certification rebates or cost share, which we have available in some Canadian provinces, and we also see is available in other jurisdictions. So the US has a cost share program. Some countries in the EU, for example, the state takes care of it, and so it's totally free. So it also helps with this question of, why are we paying to say that we're not doing something? It's where the burden is falling. So we really feel that, yes, and Denmark offers it for free. It's an example of one country. So we feel that should be made more accessible, but it's also through looking at simplified certification processes for small producers. So we have an interesting model, which is sort of led by IFOAM, so the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements, which several of our organizations are members of, but works on a system called participatory guarantee systems. So it's a non-third party, but more of an internal verification system that's designed and is used around the world and quite a bit in the global south, where the focus is the local market, and there's less of that impetus for third-party verification, but still a need for traceability and trust and all of that. So definitely that's an option that we should be looking at more. But I think the overall answer to that is yes, for sure. We want to support all of it. And I think we also definitely understand that there's a lot of interest from policymakers in soil health practices, even lots of talk about regenerative agriculture. So it's important for the organic sector to be engaged in those discussions.
Okay.
May I just add with that one as well, is I think definitely there's that recognition that there are different sized operations, and those operations are going to be having organic practices, and we need to be able to make sure that they can be recognized for those as well. But on the other side, in some ways, the certification does protect the organic integrity in general. And so these are the things that allow us to be able to trade interprovincially. They allow us to trade internationally, some of these things. So it really, I guess, just to summarize that, yes, there are things in the plan that will cover that, but there are also things to make sure that we do maintain the organic integrity, and that the organic standard, especially with new other, I guess, claims coming up related to sustainability, that organic really means something. And so there is something around that. So it's probably a balance that we'll have to discuss, but I think there definitely is that recognition that we are losing farmers. We need to make sure that, what can we do to make it easier for people to stay within the organic system.
All right. Okay, I know we have more and more questions rolling in, but we do have to be, we have to be, watching our time here because we have a lot of people that are working and on their lunch hour. And so I just want to thank you so much today for sharing the Organic Action Plan with us. And if you do have any more questions, I see more still coming in. You are welcome to send. If maybe you guys can share an email in the chat there that they can send their questions to directly, that would be fantastic. And so we'll allow you guys to reach out directly that way. And in closing, I'd also like to talk about a couple of events that are coming up for OCO that we'd like to share with you. So, Sammy, thank you so much. So, we have a couple more webinars that are coming up. This week we have Foodland Ontario. I don't know if you know, but Foodland Ontario has an organic label and has actually been supporting the organic industry in Ontario for a long time. And so they're going to actually talk about that and the power of promoting local. So that's this Thursday from 12 to 1. Next week, is it you, Katie, who's going to actually be joining us again for interpreting the Organic Task Force report?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's next Wednesday. And so if you haven't had a chance to look over this amazing report, it is just so fantastic. We're going to have an opportunity to talk about that next Wednesday from 12 to 1. And the following Wednesday, we have Rooted in Innovation. We actually have a panel of a number of amazing innovators and as well as OMAFA about the future of organic research and technology. And next slide, please. We also want to, on the heels of this particular discussion, to recognize that we've kind of left out of our conversation for a lot of years here at the Organic Council, the people that represent the post-harvest organic sector, which we have labeled PHOS, P-H-O-S, for now. And we're having a meetup on Monday, November 24th at Riverside Natural Foods, home of Made Good in Toronto. And so this will include a breakfast and a lunch and an opportunity for us to talk about how we can do more for that sector. But not only that, how that sector can actually collaborate to make the Organic Action Plan work for them. And we can talk more about the Organic Action Plan and how we can better represent that. So if you are part of the post-harvest organic sector, or if you know someone that we can include, we actually have had a little bit of a hard time reaching out to a lot of these people. So any help that we can get so that we can reach out to this particular sector would be fantastic. So we're looking forward to meeting them. And all of you, if you're here on Monday, November 24th, in person from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at Riverside. Next slide, please. And of course, our 45th Guelph Organic Conference, I already gave a shout out to that. We are moving to the Guelph Farmers Market this year. And so that will be running on January 27th and 28th. 2-day trade show. Trade shows in the afternoon on the Tuesday and an intensive during the day, and then full day of workshops and trade show on the Wednesday. And we hope to see you there. And next slide. We also want to know that we are completely not for profit, and the way that we keep running and offering all of this to you is through a couple of ways, but one of the biggest ways is through membership. So if you believe in what we're doing and you are an organic advocate, anybody who just thinks that organic is good and you want to support what we're doing here in the province, and then of course our producers, businesses, and associations, please become a member. And for those of you that are our impact partners, where a percentage of all your sales come right back to OCO, we are very, very thankful to you. And so our biggest one, of course, is Finnings. So we always like to do a shout out for Finnings for that. And our last slide here is, did you find this helpful? You can actually scan that QR code right there. And I don't know if Sammy could share that with you in the chat as well. And really, we only get better when we learn from you. So we really appreciate that feedback, whether it's positive, negative, neutral, or you have ideas and suggestions, please send those out to us. So thank you so much. I see uh, Rebecca's asking for the upcoming slideshow of what's coming up. So if you just want to move back to that and take a look there. And again, thank you so much to COA for joining us today. We'll be sharing this on YouTube, and the slides will actually be shared as well. And if you have any questions, I believe that they've been dropped into the email there. I'll just take a look at those really quick. I think we've got Karen.Murchison@cog.ca and Maylene M. Bosch, BOSCH, at Canada-organic.ca, and Katie, Katie, Katie.Fetts, Fetts, at cog.ca. So those are all places that you can send emails to. And if you missed it, please send an email to us here at OCO, info@organiccouncil.ca. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day.